Hey everyone, Meteorologist Tuttle here. Just booted up everything. We've got some severe weather up here in northwest Oklahoma, and we've got a tornadic thunderstorm that has developed. It's a maybe a short-lived situation just because it's on an outflow boundary. So as long as that boundary interaction continues, there's a chance to look at some of those storms in that area. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. It's up in northwest Oklahoma, and not here in Oklahoma City or central Oklahoma. We're up here to this area. This is a red box. This is in Quinlan, north of Quinlan and Moreland. This little red line here is the outflow boundary, and this little green area here that intersects it is the this is the velocity data, which indicates where the two are kind of coming together from the storm and the boundary. So a lot of times what happens is you get the inflow that comes into this little notch, and that can spin up a brief tornado. So that's what we're going to watch here carefully for this one. The storm is moving to the southeast right now. Again, not over any major metropolitan areas, thank goodness. However, they could produce a tornado at any moment. It wrapped up probably about 5 minutes ago is when that first boundary interaction took place, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. So fired up the old computer to go ahead and get a look at this. Let me see here. So here is a look, another view of this with the outflow boundary, then the intersection here. And let me take a look at Weather Service just updated the placement on this as well. Because the storm line itself is moving to the southeast, but the boundary itself, we'll see if it's stationary or if it has a little bit of movement to it. It looks like it's going to move a little bit south with the boundary, so it's going to have to stay with that couplet for it to produce the tornado. If this little boundary interaction stays too far north of it, then it doesn't quite mesh up. I mean, this is one of those little freak events, but you have to watch out for outflow boundaries because sometimes they can be a nemesis when it tries to produce something like this. But this is the area we're looking at, so it's coming in toward the Quinlan area, toward Belva. This would be the potential spot for a tornado at this point in time. This is south of Waynoka. So be in your shelters. It's always the center part of your home, away from outside walls and windows, and just ride this storm out as it moves on through. It won't be much longer because it's a fast mover. I mean, this thing's hauling. There are winds in general with this whole storm complex. We're in the 50 to 60 mile per hour range at times here in northwest Oklahoma, north of Woodward, northwest of Woodward. That's all a little blue area you see on the map. There's been some pockets of some really strong winds out here around Beaver and even some hail up to around 3 inches in diameter. So they've had some pretty rough stuff here in the Texas, Oklahoma panhandles. Even over here around Perry, even had a couple of brief tornado sightings in that area. So no tornadoes officially in Oklahoma. I think there was a funnel in the panhandle reported at one point in time. But this will be the first tornado that we may see here if something does materialize out of this. So that's what it looks like right now. That'll be eventually kind of heading toward the Fairview, Longdale, Canton area. But again, we're well over about an hour away from that. But this storm system will be making its way to the southeast in general, and then coming on into the greater Oklahoma City metro area. If it even holds together, we were pretty stable today as far as where we could have been. With the increase in some of those clouds that we saw and the cooler temperatures, it helped a little bit, helped keep some of that instability down somewhat. So we'll see if that remains the case. But again, looking out here around Quinlan, this is where your circulation center is. Let me do something here real quick. Something did not load. Where is it? Let's try this again. There we go. So as always, with any particular tornadic situation, you don't want to panic. You should always have a game plan, place to go. If it's a storm shelter, if it's just any business, if it's your home, you always want to be in the middle part of that building. Lowest floor, never be on the second floor or third floor. Don't go outside and try to videotape it. Just get in your shelters and ride the thing out until it's over with. It'll be very quickly. As far as the movement is concerned, let's get some of the details on that as well. By the way, just real quick here to see as far as the landscape is concerned, you can see this is going to be over a lot of farmland. You see that, which is great news. Are going to be a few little farmhouses intermixed in all of this, but for the most part, it's over a bunch of open land. So that's the good news that we have with this particular case. Also, the fact so far, no confirmation of a tornado touchdown, just broad circulation from an interaction of a boundary. So probably a lot of kicked up of dust. You're going to have a lot of rotation just spinning the cloud cover itself. Latest on this, by the way, from the Weather Service, just a couple minutes ago, tornado warning remains in effect for south central Woods County, east central Woodward, and northwestern major counties. 847, severe storm capable of producing a tornado, was located 5 miles northwest of Quinlan, moving southeast at 40. Radar indicates course rotation, possible development of a tornado. Quinlan is the major town associated with this. Also expect some hail with this storm and some wind that we talked about. So that is the latest on the tornado warning itself. Now, the big broad storm just behind it. In general, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and ping-pong ball size hail is what's in the terminology for the forecast. And that means Woodward, Shattuck, Arnett, Moreland, Gage, Fargo, Fort Supply, Freedom, May, Alabaster Cabin State Park, Selman, Tangier, Gaspee, and Camp Houston. So that's quite a bit of people there. Again, about an inch and a half, or hail, an inch and a half or so, and 80-mile-per-hour winds. Let's do a look like this. Okay. Let's see here. So there's, again, some of those communities involved, and you can see we're all within the 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:30 will be the where most of this impact will be. So it's still quite a ways away from central Oklahoma, but eventually it'll get there. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and update that track to this one. Let's see if that'll work. There we go. So here's an updated time on that, closer to the leading edge of the line rather than the back edge. So Sharon 904, Vicide 906, Moreland 908, Sealing, Averitt all around 916 to 921, Camargo 925. All right, and that's the general trend of this entire line of storms. So that's a big line, but it's basically just this leading edge here that the storm track is for. Okay. All right. Now, as far as the tornado itself, we mentioned just the one town in the immediate path, but that was it. No other new towns have been added. Let's take a look at the details on this to see if anything's changed. And I'll use a couple of different radar views. Okay, looks good there. So, woohoo, fingers crossed. So far, we've been able to get around this thing touching down. Let's see if we can't keep that going. All right, so this little fine line on your screen here, that's the outflow boundary, right? This is the leading edge of the line of an MCS. It's a squall line. Outside the leading edge of this is a QLCS type tornado, quasi-linear convective system. That stands for squall line, roughly. So this little hook, in and of itself, can sometimes produce a little bit of a small tornado. EF0, maybe EF1. With an outflow boundary, if that can work just right in its favor, that can easily be an EF1, EF2, because there's a little extra kick to it, a little extra vorticity, a little extra spin to help that column stretch and produce a little bit stronger wind current around it. Now, there's a limiting factor of this, and we talked about this last night, is the cloud bases were very high. Very hard to get a tornado with high cloud top or high cloud base. And that right there may be saving us completely from this, even though the interaction of this is ideal to produce a tornado. I mean, this is actually textbook case if that's what you want. But what's missing, the key element, is the LCLs. They were just too high up. And I mentioned how that would be very hard to get a tornado in that environment. So I think that may be what's holding it off for now. I do see a lot of blowing dust just from inflow of those storms. That's to be expected. Let's see, probability. Let's go here. Yeah, the algorithms. We have these new algorithms that we use for automated predictions for tornadoes and hail, that kind of deal. It actually has a tornado probability of 0%, but that's because it's not aware of the outflow boundary interaction and really not aware of the little inflow notch. It's just kind of more looking at the storm itself and the environment, which is not conducive really for a tornado. Therefore, it's going to have a low probability. Alright, anything else? Nope, there are some just severe storms up here in Kansas. Just some general garden variety thunderstorms. So all the action right now is going to be into northwestern Oklahoma with this little guy here. Now, again, Quinlan, of course, you're still in your shelters, but the circulation center is now passing to your east side. Matter of fact, let's take a look at that. So it's gotten a little stronger in this little quadrant. Location would be East Road 390. That would be the outbound of the radar with the inbound still broad. So it hasn't tightened up yet at the intersection of North Road 2260. So it's these two spots here, 1 and 2, but they are 2 miles apart. Too far apart for a tornado. They have to be within a mile. All right, so that's too far. They get a little closer, a little tighter, then that's where we're going to see a tornado develop. But until that happens, you're not going to get one, and it may not happen. Like I said, we'll see. Let me see if I've got something on here for that. So the STP, which is significant tornado parameter, just so you know, the environment for that is a 0.1. That's almost 0. It's literally nothing. In other words, the environment is not favorable at this time for a tornado. That's why this would be a freak incident with the intersection outflow boundary. But I'm looking at the live shots from the TV station. I'm seeing how high those cloud bases are. That's a limiting factor. So that's good news for us. All right, let me see what else I can get here for you. Trying to think off the top of my head. Let's see. Oh, let's do this. Yeah, I was trying to find the LCLs on a really close-up view. I just couldn't find them another way, so I'm just going to show them to you this way. So LCLs, lift and condensation level, roughly the cloud base, it's up around, gosh, this is 1,700. So this is around 1,750 meters. It's about 750 meters too high. It needs to be right around 1,000 or lower. So it's about 1,000 meters or lower. It's 1,750. Again, I think that's what's saving the issue of the tornado. So again, it's official tornado warning. At least it was, but it didn't produce. And this is my opinion, my professional opinion. This is the reason why. Otherwise, an outflow boundary with that signature, that would have done the deal. But there was something missing, and that was it. All right, so here's a look again at the values here on the radar. This is the velocity data. Doesn't look impressive at all. Never tightened up, too broad, too weak. So, good news. All right, so now that's out of the way. What I'm going to do is just go back to doing what I was doing, which is work. So, I'll keep an eye on this stuff, and if another case arises as this complex moves to the south and east of another potential tornadic situation, I'll do another live break-in and let you know. I'll be a little quicker next time. I got the system loaded up. I got so I do like it's like some consulting work on the side. So I'm working on a meteorological case of of hail occurring at a particular property. And so I have to do a lot of radar analysis, and so I have all this stuff open. I'm just like, my brain was just like totally into that. And I just kind of glanced, and I was like, oh no. So here we go. But we're good. I got it now. I got loaded up, so I'll multitask here behind the scenes and keep an eye on it for you. The boundary's still in play, though. You can see it moving to the south. That's always an issue. As long as there's a boundary in play, that's not good in this situation, just so you know. You don't want that, because you can easily have another little eddy, we call them little eddies, spin up on the eastern fringe of this and interact with it. And right now there's still some eddies trying to get going, so let me pause this. So this little notch here, this little inflow notch here, so it's not, what broad, circulation is there, it's still there. It hasn't completely diminished, and it's still got a boundary to work with. So really what it needs is time. It's 9 o'clock in the evening. LCLs start to come down rapidly. In other words, remember I told you around 1,750 feet? Well, they come down quickly to 1,000 feet, probably by 10 o'clock. That's when this activity starts to make its way into central Oklahoma. Now, if you remember last night, I mentioned the favorable area, in my opinion, where we'd see a tornado was going to be something, I believe it was like this. And I picked that spot because I figured up here it wasn't going to happen because the LCLs were too high. But as it worked its way into this region, we approached the 9 to 10 o'clock hour, those LCLs would come down, and that's when you had the potential to get a lowering to actually come down the surface and produce what we call a tornado. With this boundary still kind of sagging southward with it, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. That ended up being the spot to watch. So that's what we discussed last night in my live. If you missed it, I encourage you to watch those. I do a lot of analysis for you, give a lot of behind the scenes. I tell you what the data shows, I interpret it for you on the spot. Sometimes I don't even see it until I show it to you, because it usually comes in as we're talking about it sometimes. So that's where I would be watching for things over the next few hours. Let's see. Let's do a broad warning update with this one. Okay, so here's some of the, is this up here? Move this, you can see it all. Okay. So you got Mutual, Visite, Avard, Winoka, Sealing, Alva. Let's see, all through about now at 9:25. On the end of this, you got Canton about 9:48. So again, that's going to be about an hour from now before it even gets into kind of central Oklahoma. And I think, again, that's when things will be more interesting when it comes to development. Now, there's another issue with this that is actually in our favor. I mentioned this when I first started the broadcast. You see these 70s, make sure that this is what I think it is. Yeah, because sometimes I have the temperature on there, sometimes I have the dew point on there. So these are the actual temperatures. So it was actually fairly decent today because of those morning storms kind of hung in there for a while, and then they got really large over southeast Oklahoma, and the cloud shield expanded. You got a lot of subsidence, and so temperature stayed a little cooler, and then we didn't get as much instability here. So that changes things. So what that can do, it can actually cause this line to weaken as it gets closer to us with time. That's certainly an outcome on the table, and I would not be surprised if that's what happens. Dew point values are in the mid-60s, So plenty of juice out there, like we call it. I did mention the tornado parameter index, right? The STP. So still not seeing anything. That would go up a little bit once you get those cloud bases to drop. Now the energy helicity index, which is the EHI, is starting to increase. That's like a combination of instability and shear overall, because the low level jet's kicking in, so you have a little extra wind field that comes in and kick in for these storms, and that can keep them going. It can turn them into more of a wind maker overnight, and less hail, more wind. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's see. Okay, so that's the deal with this little small area. Let's take a look at these hail markers real quick. All right, so there's about an inch there. There's an inch and a quarter. That's the biggest the algorithms are tripping on from the radar sites. Man, you can really see this fine line. It stretches like this, right to here. Yeah, honestly, this is what I'm thinking. Let me do this. Yeah, so the shear about an hour ago was actually not too bad for summer. You can get a little turning with that, and with the surface features we had in play, I think we would have gotten a tornado out of that. That's what I think. I think that's the one ingredient we had missing was the cloud bases being too high. So, yeah, I'm convinced. All right, let's see here. So I think, I said this earlier, I think I'm going to let it go. It's just one of those deals where I'm like, just make sure I do it. You know, I've got some time, so I don't sign off, I have to sign right back on. But it should not for a while, at least. Maybe my guess is probably about another 45 minutes. We'll see how the cloud bases do. There is a tornado warning that's been triggered out here in the Texas Panhandle for Lipscomb. So you folks out there in Texas need to be advised of that particular storm. And these storms will move out here to northwest Oklahoma, Higgins and Arnett, that kind of deal. Let's take a look. So it is possible that we might see some type of tornado warning out of these into western Oklahoma. That's different from this main push line. So once you get it in this linear fashion of a wind maker like this, you've got the QLCS type tornado event that you can watch for. But when you look out here in the tail end of it, this allows for the low-level jet to feed into this. The alignment is different to the atmosphere. So this allows these tail end, in the old days call them tail end Charlie, but these right here is the tail end storms you'd have to watch for potential traumatic development. So that is where I'll keep an eye on those, and hence the one in Lipscomb. There were a couple of tornado sightings out here. I think it was west of Perry earlier this evening. So just so you guys know how this works in TV world. So once the TV station triggers all of their storm trackers and they got all the live shots, they got the radar going, they got the double team coverage going, they don't want to just turn it off. So in a situation like this where there's not going to be a tornado anytime soon, they already have everything kind of going and they've already interrupted whatever program they're interrupting, and so sometimes they just keep going, even though there's really nothing to talk about. And they'll stretch, they'll hem and they'll haw, and they'll start to make mountains out of molehills, because if they were to stand up there and go, well, boring over here, we have all these people out here doing stuff, and there's no tornadoes, and there's not going to be, and you're just going to sit there and watch this do nothing. They can't do that, so they have to keep it going. Remember, it's a production, it's a show, so once you look at it that way, you'll understand it better. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off, and I'll keep it on this little spot. You guys use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go, so you might get a little twisting storm alert if you're in the path of this little notch. That's just going to give you a heads up to, hey, pay attention. And then, of course, you'll out here in Arnett, or out here in far western Oklahoma, a couple of these little stragglers. We'll see what they do, so keep an eye out there. Meanwhile, a lot of the data had these storms kind of doing something like this and like this, right? And bypassing Oklahoma City altogether. That was on the table, some of the model solutions. And with the environment we experience today, that's certainly possible. In other words, the southern end of this would kind of fall apart once it gets to a certain spot. We'll see. Summertime forecasting with storms never quite goes as planned. Sometimes they do what they want to do. So we'll see what happens. All right, I'll get on it, you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon. If I don't talk to you, it means there's no tornadoes. Okay, keep that in mind. But there still could be some wind and hail, and some brief, flooding rains. Could be some brief flash flooding, something like that. So there you go. All right, guys, have a good night. Be careful, be safe. Talk soon.